Oh, we don't need no fancy words. I mean, we need to practice. We need to rehearse.
I'll tell you what we need. We need some paying gigs. We don't need this messing around, first one patio and then another, and that's ridiculous.
Amen.
We don't got no goddamn band. We don't need to fucking practice with you.
Do 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 do. Skype has got good music.
Is it
addictive?
An earwig? Tong ting tong.
It is. I could just sit there and listen to it.
Do you watch HBO?
Of course, I watch HBO. Who doesn't watch HBO?
Do you do the streaming version of that?
No, I actually have. I'm old school. I actually have DirecTV.
So everybody's got their little audio thing that they do. When you boot up a Mac, it goes gong. When you do.
Oh yeah, it goes.
When you do Netflix, it goes dun dun.
Right.
That
dun,
one.
dun.
And then we do the Skype thing. Ding, dun, 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 dun. HBO used to do their thing, but now it's gone. They don't do that.
They do that on the real one.
For a while on the streaming thing, they used to do some kind of one note thing, but then they stopped.
I watched Westworld last night, and it started that. First, it goes because the channel flips off, and it goes and then it goes. Well, this is the No GD Band podcast, however, not
Yes.
Westworld, and I am Chris.
And I am Henry, and this episode of No GD Band is brought to you by
Dun-dun.
patchouli and bad smelling people.
Well, let's talk about your trip.
Yeah,
Nashville. You went to see a couple shows.
I had 2 shows that we bought tickets for. One of them was Superchunk without Laura Balance.
Is she
fact,
quit the band, or is she?
I hate to say there's probably going to be some negative things I'm going to say, even though the shows were good.
Maybe she can't bounce up and down anymore for
Man,
45 minutes.
That guy is what, 50, Mac? And he was bouncing up and down like he was 20 years old when we saw him at the Milestone.
Right.
He was. Ping pong. The guy must work out like a crazy person, or he's just got adrenaline you wouldn't believe.
It's a good show.
Yeah.
The silence is deafening.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about it, man. I'm starting to think that maybe I'm not cut out for live music anymore or something. Maybe I'm too critical. Maybe I'm expecting more out of my concert experiences than rock and music can deliver anymore. Maybe my remembrances of things are okay, the last time I got really excited at a rock show was probably the first time we saw Slow Dive. Mm-hmm. That little tingle in the back of your neck, that little excitement bit, the part that made me cut through the thing to come see you guys, this
right.
is it, this is happening. The other one was when I saw, a few years ago, I saw the Afghan Wigs for the first time in, forever.
Sure.
It had a lot of weight and meaning to it. Now...
So the Afghan Wigs were the other show that you went to see.
They were very good. Passable, not passable, but competent. Not a lot of fire and glory in it, it felt like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Do you ever feel that way about rock shows anymore? Like, all right, when you got to LCD Sound System, you probably felt really excited, right?
Very much so.
And St. Vincent, you were probably really excited to see her.
I was not. I think that's what made it even better, because that show blew me away. But both those shows, to me, exemplify still what you're saying. They both went above and beyond a regular rock show, created a visual element. I'm still blown away. I can't wait for you to see St. Vincent here in a couple weeks and get your opinion of that. However, honestly, my overriding thoughts when we went to see Slow Dive were about the sound. I thought it was too quiet. So I was expecting my hair to be blown back. It wasn't. And honestly, it just seemed like a rock show.
Yeah.
Like, I think it had a little heightened bit because it was Slow Dive, but then I'd already seen Slow Dive a year before when they first got together in D.C. and they blew my hair back. And
maybe I'm a victim of those kind of expectations.
Right. And maybe I am too. And I don't think that's bad, and I don't think that's a bad thing about rock and roll music. I think it's a statement about possibly us going to see legacy acts.
I suppose.
St. Vincent is definitely trying to be the new David Bowie. She's trying to add visual. I think she still thinks, and she is, I guess, in the prime of her career. Mm-hmm. Slow Dive is not. Afghan Wigs is not.
I wanted so badly to sort of try to redeem that band for Jessica anyway, because, she's
not a huge fan.
Not a huge fan, but I wanted her to see what I saw out of it, and maybe she did. The guy that opened was a guy named Ed Harcourt. Have you ever heard of him?
Yes.
He was good.
I'll have to check him out again.
He was real interesting. Even though, like, some of what he was doing was clearly derivative of Nick Cave. He did it in a really good way.
Wow, I'll have to check that out.
He played a guitar, right-handed guitar, left-handed, and did loops and that kind of stuff. So I felt like maybe that was interesting enough.
Sure.
Right. The loop thing, the loop trick is always
something
fun.
a little different. Well, other than shows, how was your? I know you're a big Asheville guy. How was Asheville?
Guy stood right in front of us that smelled like high heaven. I mean, this guy smelled like.
So you got
a dump in his pants.
So you got the true Asheville experience.
Yeah. Like, stood right in front of this guy. He was clearly on drugs.
I hate to play into that stereotype, but I don't think I've ever been to a concert in Asheville that I'm not astounded that there's someone around me that smells awful. And usually it's a woman.
Really?
And not just, it's not like street urchin women. It looks like kind of white, wannabe hippie.
I'm taking a bath in 3 days.
Back when I was in the thralls of wanting to move to Asheville, and I always had this fantasy of it's so much easier to pick up ladies here because you don't even have to smell good.
Right.
In fact, I think it's better. You come off more authentic if you have a legitimate.
You're a little funk.
Yeah.
We even looked at houses up there, and the housing is expensive as hell. But the houses are. Our Asheville people are going to hate us. I need to shut the fuck up. I
don't think that's that crazy though. I think what you're seeing is a lot of people want to live in Asheville, and that's driven home prices up, not the amount of square footage.
It has nothing to do with like how great the house is. No, is all I'm trying to tell you.
No. It's location.
But they have the best food in the world. Like you can go and find some great food in Asheville, North Carolina. Let me tell you.
Boy, and I am not the wrong guy to talk to about that though.
Why that?
I'm a notorious. Megan can tell you, my wife can tell you, I'm notoriously bummed or down on Asheville food scene because
You're over it.
It's just that whole you walk in and you get a 30-minute spiel of how the chicken was nursed from birth to the grave.
Farm, yeah.
And local. And everyone loved the chicken, and we let him. He was almost dying naturally, and then you get it, and it's like stringy. I think I like processed chicken better. And then there's just a lot of that in Asheville. It's just like, I would just like a glass of sweet tea. I'm in the South, I'm like, I got sweet tea, and they're like, well, we've got
raspberry.
We've got raspberry,
dingleberry,
flavored with dingleberries. And you're like, could I just get a glass of fucking sweet tea?
All these ingredients you may not even know.
Well, but you still have a love affair with Asheville.
Yeah, I still like it. I would love to live there someday.
Well, that's great. I went to a completely different city this week. I went to my Home Instead Senior Care Franchise Convention.
All right,
annual convention.
Your work shirt
in Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah,
spent 4 days out there. Omaha's kind of. I have to give it credit for being about the size of Greensboro. It's pretty much a little city that does.
And that's where who's the guy?
Bright Eyes is from there.
Bright. That one record label was all.
Yes,
over that
Bright
place.
Eyes label is there, and there's a lot of little cool stuff going bubbling underneath, but not even on a hipster level. It's really cool. They've got a warehouse district that's probably stretches from what we know of as Plaza Midwood all the way to Noda, and encompassing Belmont. That is brick streets with all these old warehouses and factories that used to be. They put them all in one district.
Really? And
it's all shops and restaurants, and for a city that size, the restaurants are great. Everything's eclectic and cool looking. Now that's just one patch. The rest of it is just white bread, corn-fed, Christian, Midwestern, neutral accent, Stepford wife looking motherfuckers.
Yeah.
But that area is really neat for a little town. So I kind of thought that was cool. Our convention, I didn't know this going in. Seth Rogen.
Really? Is this the Alzheimer's connection?
Yeah, so he did this Hilarity for Charity event, which I didn't even know was on Netflix till after I got back from convention.
Yeah.
I had a client last year that Hilarity for Charity paid for the client the entire time.
No
and
shit.
I didn't know it had anything to do with Seth Rogen.
Well, how did they get on the radar for that guy?
Well, so they called me from home office and said, we've got one of these Hilarity for Charity clients. I thought home office had started. I was like, what does that mean? And they're like, it's a charity that will pay for the service. She's in your area.
They didn't even say Seth Rogen.
Didn't even say Seth Rogen. So then the funny thing is, Henry, so we're at this Thursday night. They did a costume party. There's about 1,500 people there. Open bar. Everyone's kind of costuming it up, partying it up a little bit.
That's nice.
And they said they wanted to introduce, and I couldn't hear really well because it was loud. And they said they want to introduce Lauren and Seth Rogen. Well, the founders of Home Instead Senior Care are named Lori and Paul Hogan. So when they said that, I was like, oh my God, our owners are going to come out. That's their costume. They're going to come out as the Rogans. And so I'm kind of sauntering near the stage because like I want to see them dressed as these New York kind of Jewish looking people and they're right. Corn-fed Nebraskan. And I got to the stage and Henry, the sad part was my first thought was, oh shit, they nailed it. But no, it turned out to actually be Seth Rogen. And so
did he talk?
He talked. He did about a 5-minute little spiel about how great the work Home Instead Senior Care was. He made jokes about this looks like a great convention, but he was kind of laughing like,
you guys are boring.
I don't really do conventions, but he's like, it looks like you're having a great time. And
I'll tell you something happened at my house that set me straight. I was watching Undercover Boss with my wife and my daughter, and there was a character on the show. They were doing an Undercover Boss about Build-A-Bear, right?
Okay.
And the CEO, they go undercover, and anybody that's familiar with that, the CEO of the place gets in a
he dresses up and gets in a disguise, and then he pretends to be a regular employee.
So I'm watching this, and there was a lady walked into the a grown woman, walking into the Build-A-Bear workshop, overweight, short hair, was by herself without a kid, and was picking out stuff for the Build-A-Bear, and Bijou's kind of looking around, glances over at me, and I happen to be going like this, like rolling my eyes.
Before you continue.
I'm rolling my eyes. Right?
You're saying Build a Bear.
The Build-A-Bear workshop.
I thought you were talking about a guy named Build the Bear.
The Build-A-Bear workshop, they go in and build the bears.
I thought you were talking about a guy named Bill the Bear. I was like, I would love to see a Build the Bear workshop.
Is there a Build-A-Bear?
Okay, Build-A-Bear. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. You were fucking me up. I was like, when is Bill the Bear going to walk in?
I'm Build-A-Bear, motivational speaker here at the Home Instead.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
I was like, I want to check out this Build the Bear guy.
I rolled my eyes. Okay, show goes forward, and they're meeting the people at the end that they were dealing with and giving them things, how great they were.
Sure.
One of the employees who I hadn't seen was dressed like a fairy. Like she dresses in
That's not a nice way to describe people, Henry.
In an over the top kind of dollish kind of way with like a long wig.
We don't call gay people fairies.
That's
anymore.
no, you know what I mean? Like dressed like an actual fairy, not.
Oh, you mean like the fairy, like Peter Pan,
yes,
like Tinkerbell,
or in that manner,
okay.
like very doll-like.
I am missing large parts of this story.
Maybe
okay.
I'm probably not saying it right. Maybe I'm tired from my drive, but the heavy makeup, wig, all of that, kind of porcelain-looking features.
Wings?
No wings, but just short of the wings. And, shoes with
pointy,
bedazzled things on them and everything. It's and I just said, "Oh man, look at her! Is that a wig? Oh my god!" Record skips in the room, and my daughter looks at me and says, "Do you just say things about women only?"
That's us. That's my stunned silence, folks. Oh man, she just nailed you.
Yeah, I mean, my mouth dropped open, and I'm like, "Point taken." I had nothing. She was very right.
Wow.
About that.
Wow.
And I got to realize this is my little girl growing up in the Me Too era, seeing her dad make comments about female appearances, something that it's a habit that men get into. It's bad, and it's not something I'm proud of, but it's real. Okay, and I feel anyway.
That's kind of neat.
But you see the point of me bringing that up, I guess. But anyway.
And so when did Bill the Bear walk in?
Bill the Bear walks in. Hey, Henry.
So
when you talk about you talking, looking at women.
So Bill the Bear and a fairy were hanging out at a bar. That's actually kind of cool.
And so I had
it's neat to have like a little, self-awareness person walking around with you going, hey, Dad.
Yeah.
Da-da-da-da.
Why do you only do that?
Why do you only do this? Yeah. Well, we need some whiskey, and we also have a great guest coming up, Henry.
That's right. We will be speaking to, you want me to go ahead and say?
Yeah.
We're going to be speaking to Joshua Andrew Robbins, who has a band called Late Bloomer.
And hopefully we've timed this right, so his band, Late Bloomer's record, will be coming out this week.
Right.
And we will get to play a track from it. Hopefully we'll be like on the cusp of having a premiere, like a world premiere, Henry.
The world premiere.
I don't know that it actually will be, but it's going to be like, we're going to be like one of the first media outlets. We're a media outlet now too, by the way. Yeah. We're going to be like one of the first media outlets to release the first single, which is going to be pretty cool.
Cool.
So let's get some whiskey, which Josh brought, which is super nice of him. And here we go.
Oh, show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. No, don't ask why. For we must find the next whiskey bar. Or if we don't find the next whiskey bar, I tell you we must.
Well, we're back in the whiskey segment, and that is Josh Robbins he's from lots of stuff. Self-Aware Records, is that your main? Is that your
main gig?
If you were telling
like
people
when we release a record, but
yeah,
on certain days.
If you met a stranger on the street and they said, "What do you do?" What would be your first response?
I don't know. I really don't think I thought
What
about
do you
that.
mean?
Eat tasty cakes?
Yeah, I eat tasty cakes.
So what do you do, Josh?
What do I do?
Hold up! Before we get deep, we're going deep here. This is the whiskey segment,
That's
man, and he brought
we're going
whiskey.
deep voice.
Yeah, and I want to get to this whiskey he brought. I love it when we have guests because they bring whiskey, which is so nice.
Welcome, Josh Robbins.
Tell us what you brought.
Welcome. Well, to start with, I don't drink.
All right.
This is already starting great.
More for us.
I haven't drank in almost 12 years. I started really young.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
probably a story.
Yeah, I was about to say, is that so? You haven't drank since you were 9?
No, I haven't drank since I was 20.
Okay.
I'll just put that down. Let me crinkle it all on them.
Yeah, crinkle it so everyone knows you really brought.
Okay, so I brought Kentucky Gentleman,
Oh God.
which I assume it's really nice because I don't know why they would call it Gentleman. Gentleman's like a.
Boy, this could be a long night, Henry.
I didn't know he was a teetotaler.
I didn't either. So is it going to bother you that we drink? Is it one of those sorts of things? 12 years, we're not going to
I get really angry. I don't
Oh,
I know somebody who acts like that when they get really drunk.
No, I don't mind. I mean, I always kind of just feel like it's like my personal decision of you know trying to stop a lineage of alcoholism.
I like it. I like it. Break the cycle.
The short story is basically me and my brother got in a fist fight when we were drunk.
Yeah.
When I stopped drinking after that. He didn't, and he got a couple DUIs. So I think I made the better decision.
I think so too.
Is that weird? I know you probably spend time around people who do drink and stuff. Is that weird for you?
It's just been so long that I don't. Yeah. It doesn't affect me. I think most people now, like when I was younger, like when I stopped drinking, like felt like you had to explain it. Like I was in college, and so people were like, "Why don't you drink?" Like, "Are you allergic to it?" You know, or like figure out some big reason. They're like, "Are you Christian?" Or you know, and
or you straight edge.
Well, I am, but I feel like I kind of became straight edge because I just got tired of explaining to people.
Right. It's easier
like
to
it was
say.
like I like a lot of straight edge bands.
Yeah.
I'm on paper, yes, I am. Like I get the
you
job.
probably don't
like,
eat meat.
They're like,
right?
you're hired.
You're a vegetarian.
It's an easy way to explain. Yeah, I'm straight edge.
Become vegetarian recently,
right?
But my wife's always been like vegetarian and vegan.
Yeah.
And my bandmate, actually everyone in Late Bloomer is vegan or vegetarian.
Yeah.
But that's, Scott that owns Lunchbox that plays drums in Late Bloomer. He's been vegan as long as I've known him.
Sure.
And he's straight edge too, but he's like 40, so he doesn't need to talk about it.
When was straight edge a thing? What? Like,
I think it started in the
I've
90s,
always said,
or maybe the 80s.
Look,
Here's Fugazi, that whole.
Is it Fugazi or Fugazi?
Fugazi.
I call it Fugazi.
But it's pre-Fugazi.
You think it's pre-Fugazi?
It is. So
I'm pouring the Kentucky Gentleman. By the way.
Go ahead and pour it while we're on the thing.
This is all good. This is good stories
and I'm going to pour
stuff, but
my Polar into this.
Yes.
you know, I should have known, Henry. When he walked in, he popped the top on this Polar thing, and it
now
was
we have
like,
to deal with this whole guilt complex. I don't.
I just want you guys to start cussing a lot at the end of the podcast.
Yeah. This Kentucky Gentleman will tend to make one cuss, so this is going to be.
You'll figure out we're not whiskey connoisseurs by any stretch.
But I guess if you want to know, I guess the history as I know it of straight edge, Ian Mackay, and that's what I was saying. Ian McKay.
I always said McKay too.
Yeah, I feel like I've switched recently. It's like tomato, but like it was a Minor Threat song.
Yeah,
and it was about being straight edge, and so it was really just a Minor Threat lyric because like they grew up on like the '70s kind of towny rock, like Ted Nugent and Aerosmith and stuff like that. But like that's like kind of when it was like codified as like something. Is it codified? We're gonna keep.
I think it's codified. Let's go codified.
I'd say.
Wait. Let me summarize. We're going Fugazi, we're going Mackay, and we're going codified. All right, continue. And I'm already like one.
We need some Coke with
down
this stuff,
on
man.
Okay.
And so basically, you could say he started it, but then a lot of people just automatically started like, taking the mantle for it. Like.
It's funny that you
when
should
the
mention
straight edge
hardcore
scene.
like that because I did listen to Late Bloomer stuff, the first two records, and I would say that along with Husker Du.
Yeah. That's it.
Okay, let's summarize again. We're gonna go with Husker Du and codified.
I'm gonna go Husker Du
and Mackay, and we're gonna go Fugazi. Continue.
Along with like probably the obvious stuff that people say about Husker Du. I did hear some of that sort of hardcore influence in that. I guess DC hardcore.
Yeah, I mean
right?
the DC hardcore stuff like Discord. Primarily, it was like a big part of our scene, or us coming up as like a band like. Well, Fugazi, and then any of Ian's bands, like Egg Hunt was another band.
What was that duo he did? Do you remember that?
Egg Hunt was one. Well, the Evens Evens is like his current, but they don't do too much because it's like him and his partner, and they have a kid. So I assume that probably slows things down some.
How did you guys get a hold of this stuff? I know how we...
Well, Kentucky Gentleman.
Whoa. Yeah, only allowed to ask about Kentucky Gentleman at this point. Yeah, let's go to the...
Stop the whiskey sound.
Unless we have any more Kentucky Gentleman points.
If we are talking about straight edge versus, I think that sort of fits into the whiskey.
I think it does as well. I think that part's good.
But I got Kentucky Gentleman at the fine ABC Spirits in Plaza Midwood.
I know. We're so happy to have that here now.
And as someone that hasn't drank in a really long time, I kind of felt like a feeling I would imagine like if you went into like a porn store where it was like I don't belong. I'm not supposed to be here. I mean, if that's your thing, it's whatever.
You don't want to be seen.
But you don't want to be seen. Like I felt this like mild panic that I was like, someone's gonna see me and
they call you out.
Because like people know that I don't drink, and then it's like, is he secretly drinking? Right. Then I'm like trying to just have that conversation.
That would create kind of a cool mystique, though. If they were like,
let me assure all of Josh's
in the
friends
liquor store the other day
that he's not drinking with us. He's having a seltzer.
He is, and we're proud of that. But we're going to continue drinking this fine Kentucky Gentleman that he brought and head into the main segment.
Before the end of it, though, so there was another option. I was trying to find it, and I'm not really used to how ABC stores are set up. And there was something called Kentucky Supreme. And then I was like, but it was $1 less.
Supreme?
Yeah. And I was just like, I don't trust anything with Supreme in the title. Like,
Supreme kind of scares me.
Supreme just seems like where you just want to throw all your garbage.
And was it in a plastic bottle?
It was in a glass bottle.
Okay, well.
It was really just looked like knockoff Kentucky Gentleman.
So that's the kind of stuff I would buy. Chris is the high dollar.
Who is going to knock off Kentucky Gentleman?
That's where I was like.
Where's the market?
Because I was like, I don't even, because that was, kind of like, oh, I'll pick up Kentucky Gentleman. That's what my wife was like, you should get Kentucky Gentleman. I was like, what's a good cheap whiskey that I should get? And then she was like, Kentucky Gentleman, definitely. And then, so this was kind of her joke.
So your wife really dislikes the podcast.
Jim Morrison, take it away.
Oh, show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. No, don't ask why. For we must find the next whiskey bar. Or if we don't find the next whiskey bar, I tell you we must die.
All right. That was easy transition. We're back.
ZZ transition.
I'm already hitting the
That was
Kentucky
amazing.
the Kentucky gentleman a little hard.
I say, so we were talking about hardcore.
I guess you were
Yeah,
saying.
but wait,
like,
let's. I want to make my reference for Late Bloomer because I think it's interesting how you hear your own kind of stuff. Like I heard a lot of Sugar,
Oh yeah,
but I kind of prefer Sugar to Husker Du
yeah,
in my world. So like, was Sugar?
it's huge.
Okay, good. Okay,
Yeah.
so I just wasn't me.
That
Yeah.
first, I don't know that I could say that with the first record, but I could definitely say it with the second.
I mean, the first one was me just trying to get a handle on playing bass and singing. But,
Yeah.
you know, I'd say the first one probably comes across more almost like a pop punk record in a way. But I think, like, as I've become a better musician or, like, more comfortable playing together.
Obviously, this wasn't your first band.
No, but it was the first band where I'm writing something in a style. Well, bands before that, before Late Bloomer, I was in a band called Pullman Strike, and that was like alt country.
Where have I heard that name before?
Daniel, we know Daniel, the drummer.
You know Daniel Beckham.
Back
He just
in
friended
the
me
early
on
or
Facebook,
mid
like,
'90s.
just
Probably
yesterday.
unfriended you back. That's how Daniel was.
Weird. Okay.
However long the band lasted, I feel like I was in like half of it.
Right.
Half. You know, I'm on like the first record, first full length, and not on the second. I had already started Late Bloomer with Neil, who stayed in Pullman Strike the whole time. But I mean, it taught me a lot about like harmonies and stuff because I had never played an instrument in a band. I was always the singer in the band. And when Pullman Strike started, it was like, I want to play bass in a band. Like I had a bass and I was sort of learning like hardcore covers and stuff on it. Kind of got to a point like with bands, like if I'm going to keep being in bands, I need to be able to like contribute. It was frustrating to like not be able to contribute. Kind of like come to practice and someone's like, I don't have any new
It's
stuff.
right, and like you can't, as a vocalist, it's hard to push the direction of a song.
Yes.
Right.
That's like a big thing. And as
Yeah.
a control freak,
It
Yeah.
was really bothering you.
it would bother me.
I wonder why I could pick up on the control freak part of it.
Yeah, right.
Just okay.
Let's set the stage here for all our listeners that don't know Late Bloomer. So Late Bloomer has a record coming out this week, hopefully. When the podcast comes out, I'm hoping.
Well, actually, as of the release of this podcast, it'll be not the release of the record, but the release of the first single.
first single, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So I
do
don't
they
know.
usually do 2 lead singles before the album drops?
Usually it's like 2 lead singles, and they'll do like a full premiere like a week before like the record actually drops. Beginning of May will be the first drop, and then the album comes out at the end of June. June 29th is the release date.
It's the official release date.
Yeah, so that's 2 months.
How'd you hook up with 6131?
I had known like the releases they had put out, like, you know, that kind of like, and they had put out like hardcore bands and stuff before, and they kind of were pivoting, do more indie stuff. So that was like a comfortable thing for me because that's kind of like stylistically what I was kind of doing. So anyways, you know,
Now,
like
those guys are California, right?
well, they were originally based. I mean, they still claim California. They put out like a band called Touche Amore, and that was like a big band for them, and that was based out of California. But I don't think anyone that runs a label lives in. No one that runs a label lives in. Primarily, they're a Richmond label now.
Oh.
Really, I think like we've been signed to the label for so long, and the record hasn't come out mainly because I don't know, shit happens, I guess.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It just felt comfortable, like for us to kind of be on a label where we felt like they're coming to the same conclusions as us, like with like what they want to release.
So they want you to tour a lot? Or no?
Me and Neil are really gonna try. Like I guess like predominantly in the past, we've done kind of the weekend warrior thing, and like we'll use our vacation time and go on like 10-day tour.
I know how that is.
Try and do a little as much as we can. This year might be different. So we're right when the record comes out, like the next week, we're going on like a 3-week tour And then we have like another 10-day tour for September, and then another 10-day tour planned for hopefully the West Coast. But in between there, hopefully people will like the record. And
let's let people hear Late Bloomer.
Sounds
then
good.
we can talk to them some more, because everybody's probably like, what the fuck
What's
do they sound like?
We heard it described.
So I'm going to let Josh pick. Do you want to play the song off the new record first, or do you want to play
Well, you
my
said-
favorite track off of the one before?
yeah, you said, well, let's play the one that you like, because I guess like if we're telling a story of it,
Yeah, I like it. I
we'll
like it.
progress through the timeline, and actually I think probably sets up some of the changes, you know, with
Sweet.
everything. So.
So my favorite song is Dr. Abernathy, and it is by Late Bloomer, and here it goes. Okay, so that was Dr. Abernathy by Late Bloomer. Things Changed. That's the name of the last one, right?
Yeah, that's the 2014 album.
Sorry, I'm bad.
Did you guys put these out back to back? Like Spotify says, or not?
Yeah, the first two came out pretty much back to back. Like I feel like when you start a band, you kind of like, it's so much like kind of pouring out of you, you know? Mm-hmm. And then life catches up with you or start hating each other.
All right, so 4-year gap.
Yeah.
So what's up with that?
Kind of a hard story to tell. Like, I mean, we pretty much started writing right after Things Changed. He moved the store from where Lunchbox was to, and so that took up time.
So Scott is the drummer.
Yeah,
he
Scott
owns
Wisher.
Lunchbox Records here in Charlotte.
Yeah.
They changed location.
And Neil had actually, I think a big thing that happened early on was right after we got to sign to 6131, they reissued the tape in, 2015, 2016, whatever it says on their site. And then he had he started just having seizures, just like, I kind of never had them. There were months where, a few months where we didn't play a show. We canceled some shows. We canceled a festival that we were going to play. Those were right after we signed to 6131. Mm-hmm. And so I felt like when we came back to it, I don't know if this is like the revisionist kind of like me looking back at it, but it felt like we kind of like started from square one with those same songs. Like that was October that happened. It was like the week of the festival we were supposed to play. And I don't think we played a show until like January of that next year.
The mechanics
so basically that ate up a lot of whatever. I feel like I can't remember what years this was. And then so that ate up a lot of that year.
Yeah.
And then I lost a job, and then we're like, well, let's start working on the record again. Let's record it in a couple months. And we recorded it. It's like, I feel like we just weren't ready to record the record we wanted to record. Because, like, I feel like if we had released the record the way it was, then, and some of this, like, also 6131 felt the same way. Like, the record would have just been kind of samey of, like, everything. I mean, you want to, like, I feel like from the first record, our self-titled, into Things Changed, like, there was a good leap there was and, like, the way that's really all it was. Like, it's like, but something about the way that we presented ourselves with the material, like, kind of felt like Things Changed 2.0. Like,
so,
it's just,
so it was your fault, not.
It was totally our fault.
Okay,
like 100%.
So when you re-recorded it, did it sound? Did it like click right away? Like when you heard it, like you're like, this is the way it's supposed to sound, or was it?
I think that what I meant to describe it all was as you go back to basics. Okay. And
what about the other guys? Were they happier with the second session?
Oh, definitely. I mean,
it felt better for everybody.
It was just like the kind of joke that we have with it is, well, if you did that good of a demo the first time, then it's bound to be better the second time.
Right. I want to switch gears completely from Late Bloomer here because Josh does so much stuff. I want to get it all in. So you kind of sent us an email letting us know a lot of the stuff that was going on with you because you do a lot more than I actually knew. My first impression, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this, is a lot of the things that you've done remind me of like the things that were going on when me and Henry were 20, like in early 90s. Like Self-Aware Records started as a fanzine, like an actual fanzine, like with like pages and stuff. Yeah. A lot of the music you're into obviously comes from the time period when we were in our 20s, which not that we're 30 years older than you, but we are. Yeah.
I feel like you're in your late 20s now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, of course. So my question to you is with the record label now, and I know like that you guys actually make records with your record label and a fanzine and things like that, which were perfect in our time period in our 20s. How do you cope now with the way things, because from my perspective now, things are so different than like paper and CDs and records and all the kids. Like, how would you get a kid to even understand what a zine is?
I think I'm too dumb to fail. Like, it's
is there just a niche for that, or do you not notice it?
There wasn't when we started. I mean, it wasn't that it didn't exist, but I feel like it took a long time for people to like take us seriously. But also, I didn't know anything about running a label, so it was. I mean, it was tough. Like, and like things have changed like so much. Like we started as like a label that we probably were planning on putting out a lot of like fast punk bands at the time, and that's like the first few releases were that. And then like, you know, stuff started changing with the label. Like I think we kind of just kept doing it.
Right.
You know, and there's always been this, you know, that book, Our Band Could Be Your Life.
Yes.
Do we? Yes.
The Butthole Surfers section says like, we're proof, I'm probably not going to quote it right. Like, we're proof that you don't have to be good to get popular. You just have to not break up.
Right.
Like, it's like, I feel like there's probably so many other chapters in that book that I should have like taken to heart a lot more than that one.
Right.
But like, that's like the big thing we've said, even with like Late Bloomer and like with Self-Aware and stuff. It's like, just don't stop.
Stick to it.
Stick to it. You know?
Well, and that's the interesting thing. And I mean this as a compliment, not, I honestly don't mean this as an insult, but to me, it's like there's stick-to-itiveness, but then there's also like it reminded me of a guy that's really into phone booths. And you're like, I'm just going to keep making phone booths. And the whole culture has shifted now to like, what's a phone booth? And I dig it because I think there is a niche market out there for it. But it was interesting when I started reading this, I was like, man, I remember like 92, 93, if somebody had started a zine in Charlotte, I would have been so into it. And now I think of my version of what a 20-year-old person is like now is like somebody that's into Hamilton and like wears sweaters all the time. And they'd be like, what is a zine? And like, why would you print something on paper? Yeah. Well, I also want to work this in because you're also in a band with your wife called All Right. And how long have you done that? And I know we want to play a song from that because it's really cool too.
I mean, I guess the band started around the time Things Change came out, so 2014. I think we played our first show in 2015.
How many folks are in All Right?
3. We've gone through a few drummers, but the drummer that we have now has been our drummer for like 3 years, so I think he's gonna stick. Yeah, I mean it's another 3-piece.
Where did you record this record?
We just went in the studio, like we were in there last week, and we went to Headroom Studios in Philly, and they did like Hop Along and a band called Mississippi. They both have new.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah.
How long were you up there?
5 days. Probably should have.
How many songs did you knock out in 5 days?
14.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, but
so that's going to be an EP and an LP?
An EP and an LP. So I think however long that takes them to mix, you know, he's probably.
Is the All Right records coming out on Self-Aware or?
We're not really sure. I think we're going to try and like pitch it around for a little bit and see who's interested. That's kind of like maybe we'll do the EP, but we want to definitely make sure the LP like, you know, has time to see if somebody.
Are you and Sarah co-writing the songs, or is she writing the songs, or how does that work?
As the band's progressed, she really writes most. Really, you know, I mean, 90% of all the All Right stuff. Every once in a while, she'll let me sing a song. So I think out of the 14 songs we recorded, I sang lead on 2 of them. Maybe those will be the ones that get cut.
Right.
We'll see.
That'll be a good fly in the wall argument.
Yeah. I mean, so like even on the EP, I don't have any songs I sing on it, but the EP before, like I have 1 or 2. I can't. Usually you'll just hear me for a second or something. I really try and that's the band where I really just, like I've tried to just be the bass player.
Not be a control player.
Yeah, well, the band is weird too because I really feel like usually in a band you'll have like one band dad or band mom. Like it's really the band where there's 3 band dads and a band moms, you know, band people, leaders.
Does it add a weird dynamic?
I think it actually,
being in a band with your spouse,
you know, like if she's mad at me from home, maybe that probably spills into practice. I would assume it's only natural. So you'd probably have to ask our drummer how weird it gets.
Right.
I feel like we do pretty good. Like, I mean, like I really try and just like, I feel in like Late Bloomer, like I don't feel like I'm like a bass player in that band. So in like All Right, it's kind of like, what would a bass player do with this? Like, you know, like actually trying to like teach myself how to play bass. You know, so I don't know. That's how I try and approach it differently, but I don't know.
always of the opinion that when you learn an instrument too well, that it kind of fucks things up. Do you believe that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people that are really good at their instrument, like I guess guitar center type people, like it's kind of like, oh, we know that you can Steve Vai the fuck out of the guitar, but your song sucks. You know? So
but
like,
can you write a song? Yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes if you don't have a crazy amount of musicianship, sometimes you're forced to like just be more immediate and stuff. But I mean, I've been playing bass for 10 years now, so I don't think I can really claim the novice thing anymore.
I always said that, not I always said, but I heard from somebody, I don't remember who, that rock and roll was really about inspired amateurism.
Yeah, and I think it should be. I mean,
I always hate to like rip on musicianship because like a guy like Prince took it and made it. Like he was Steve Vai who could write a song.
Yeah.
But on the other end, I kind of on the other end too. There are a lot of people that pick instruments up that I like that it's obvious they can't play it and they make a more interesting sound with it.
Yeah.
Because they don't know.
It's like virtuosity in and of itself is not a disqualifier, but it can be one.
It can be one. Yeah. In the same way. Yeah. Like that's why and you probably know this too, Josh. Like a lot of people have asked me like, what would I do to play the bass on this? And I was like, the best thing to do is not ask me, just like pick it up. And that's the way I learned. Just start playing it and you'll make more interesting sounds than if you get a Mel Bay book and start.
Yeah. I mean, when I started, I think like the harder thing about like starting growing up is like when somebody wants to fuck around and play like Smoke on the Water, I don't know how to play Smoke on the Water because I didn't learn when I was like 14, you know?
Yeah.
That I like that about kind of like not having that because you know people are like, or when people say, oh well, bass players should play with their fingers. Like I don't play with my fingers. I mean I don't know if you do.
What do you play with?
He plays with a pick,
play with my feet,
or his dick.
Sorry, I was thinking I was thinking of the friend. Like if you're not playing it with your fingers,
have you never seen him play with his tongue?
He used
to do.
Play with my heart.
All right, he plays with his tongue
to make sure he was on key or in tune. He would play "Beat It." Don't.
Yeah, before I had a tuner. I would tune just by playing beat.
No. That's what he knew.
I have a tuner now. Yeah,
that's what he knew. Well, that sounds right. Let's go. Josh, how did you find your way to this kind of music? Where did it come from? I know how most people find music, but a guy your age, how did you get a hold of Fugazi and all those hardcore bands? I know you said something about Our Band Could Be Your Life. That's kind of before your time, right?
That's like a book I read later. I mean, like
that book had probably been out.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I mean,
right?
I think like growing up, I feel like when I got into, I had like an older brother, but he wasn't really that much older than me. And I don't know. I feel like
music did you like when you were a kid, like really young?
Really little? Like, are we saying like 10 or?
Yeah.
I guess you mean like when I started forming my own opinion about what I like.
How would you find out about this stuff? Like
when it got into.
Who said, hey, look, check out this band Fugazi.
I was about to start telling you about like classic rock bands.
Or let me go there too. I guess that's what I want to know. Is I know the path that other people take to listening to good music, or when they find their way to devote their life to some degree to this kind of music. I wondered how you got there.
I always felt like I was somebody growing up that would read like the liner notes, you know, like, and so I think it's like sometimes I used to think it's a generational thing, but there's this younger band in town and they're 20. I don't think anyone in the band can't play at Petra's yet, because I've tried to like book them. But like they're kind of the same way, and I used to think it was like a generational thing, but I think it's kind of like a personality type thing. Maybe it happened more or I'm just not talking to the right people younger than me. But I always felt like I was somebody that's like, if this sounds like this, where did this come from? Like, but I don't think I really knew the difference of when I was first introduced to punk. Like it was just punk. I think I was fortunate since I grew up in a beach town like Wilmington, and maybe that has a part of it. You just listen to Social Distortion and Op Ivy, and you listen to NoFX, and they were all punk bands. And then somebody would be like, here's Hot Water Music. And I'm like, well, this sounds different than this. And then somebody would be like, this is Sick of It All. Wow, that sounds really different. You know, they're like a New York hardcore band. And I'm like, well, that sounds really different than Social Distortion. Like, and this is all punk. And then I remember my brother brought a CD home, his band Spaz, and they were like a power balance band. So like just really fast, like grindy stuff. And I was just like, this is also punk? You know, and then it's like the Minutemen, and you're like,
What?
this is punk? Like,
Jamming Econo?
yeah.
That's
And
it?
you're like, my brother brought home like Exploited and stuff like that. I'm like, I guess just really anything could be punk, you know? And then I felt like it was just like you would go to like the CD store and be like, this kind of looks punk, you know? And then you bring it home and be like, I guess this is punk. I mean, I spent $10 on it, so I better like it. You know? I don't know. I think like skate videos and BMX videos and stuff, like they were just anything.
You hear how the whole thing is still alive and well, even in a culture in which
Well,
we
I don't know
talk
if I'm
about.
an indication of what kids are doing.
But I'm saying that whole aesthetic, the thing where we would go and look at liner notes, try to figure out, you know, where things were recorded or what, you know, who produced what. I've always feared that the easy availability of this was lost. Like if everything's free, then nothing is worth anything. And so I always,
But I feel like
suspected that the younger folks, I guess guys your age or younger, would cease to put value on such things. But it's refreshing to hear you talk about it in such terms. You know?
I just was always, and I feel like I didn't really like close myself off. And I don't know if it's just like the way I was raised, like, but I was raised in like a household of like everything. Like we were basically forced to listen to like Christian music growing up. But, you know, it was like if you could sneak in, like my stepbrothers would sneak in, like bass music was really big at the time. And that's boom, 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 yeah, boom. Like they had like a Mercury Cougar and would like drive us to church and stuff. And then they would play booty bass stuff, I guess what they called it. But it was just like, I don't know. I don't really feel like I really put a whole lot of layers, or I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but like it was all just music to me, you know? I mean, and I guess it all kind of informed what I was into. I mean, I remember actually the kind of Wikipedia version of myself. I remember like when my brother brought home like Exploited, like, and they were definitely more like Safety Pin and like, you know, there's like someone with the mohawk on yeah. And it was just like, I don't know if I'm about this of it. Like, I just kind of want to be myself. Like, I don't want to dress up, you know, like it was. Like at that point, like I purposely stopped kind of listening to punk. Like I just started listening to like hair metal, like to piss my brother off. But my brother got me into punk, and then I just basically started listening to like Iron Maiden and Poison and Skid Row on purpose, just to be like, this is my music.
Stake your own territory.
And so I think that's kind of like how it's like. I guess that's kind of how I've always been. But that also led me into getting really into like metal, and my brother wasn't really a metal guy, but. And then so when I moved to Charlotte, it was kind of like, well, I'm kind of like tiring of this, and was kind of like starting to reconnect with punk stuff that I liked as like a kid, and that's kind of what led me like full circle. My uncle and aunt, they ran this Christian nightclub called The Ark. I think it's called The Lighthouse at the time.
I think I might have even heard about
and they would book, some bands would kind of like sneak in, like, you know, you'd be like, if you didn't cuss or they screamed enough, you did, you know, and we knew they weren't Christian bands, but predominantly like Christian hardcore and Christian punk and stuff was really big in North Carolina. And then like, so like, well, like I was never in like a Christian band, but it was like huge. And so it was like, and also with my parents, if I could be like, the band's Christian, then I might be able to go, or either
convince the parents.
Yeah, because like, okay, so there's this funny thing that I was telling you, I think, where sometimes when I'm listening to the podcast, I feel like I start getting your voices mixed up.
Did you ever hear the Dr. Mark episode? Dr. Mark, that guy, like, is a friend of mine, and he'll say stuff to me when I see him during the week. He's like, "You're fucking crazy about X, Y, or Z," and I'm like, "That wasn't me. That was Henry that said that."
Yeah,
and he's like, I can't tell which one of your voices.
Well, I was telling you.
Sometimes you spend too much time with somebody.
Now I feel like I'm getting it. I was telling you, right?
Yeah.
That I feel like your voice somehow sounds like you have a beard.
I'm leaving that in.
But like,
it's because mine is deep and resonant.
Yeah, and I feel like that would be like what I would imagine someone with a beard. But actually, in person too, like it. Your voices don't sound too different.
Yeah, when you know a guy this long, our voices probably start sounding alike. Yeah. Probably the same
I've asked
like
Mark about that.
Couple.
He swears that. Yeah, he's like, I can't tell which one's talking sometimes, but
I can't. I just feel like I just flip who the voice I think belongs to, and then you're like, and I've listened to like probably every episode.
You probably have. You're probably like one of our super fans. And the best part about it is, I probably say more dickish stuff. So if Henry gets blamed for it, I kind of dig that.
Even better.
Yeah.
It's pretty rare that I say
Are
something
you all
dickish.
around the same age? Or?
We're exactly the same age.
Okay.
Yeah. He's, 9 months younger.
Yeah. But we're the,
I think it flips sometimes, but I always feel like there's like somebody will say something off color and the other one kind of cleans it up. You're like, well, but I don't think it's never this.
Yeah.
I really don't
Somebody
think it's the same
aims.
person.
All right, one of us will aim for the ditch, and the other guy will try to drag that guy back out of the ditch again. Let's try to. We didn't
anyone's listening.
We didn't make a space to play.
No, I want
play heaven.
I want to wrap up the whole thing.
I think we kind of
On the
stopped
thing.
talking about the all right.
No,
thing.
we're gonna end the whole segment by playing the new. Is this? Are we gonna have like an exclusive first play? No,
Exclusive local.
exclusive local. So like, I feel that's a big step for us, Henry.
Yeah.
And I want to thank Josh for coming in and talking with us. And you do so much
been a
stuff.
real
Is there
pleasure,
anything else that we
Josh.
haven't mentioned, by the way, before we do play the track?
I guess we've talked about Self-Aware Records and we've talked about All Right and Late Bloomer. I mean, that's predominantly the nutshell of it. I mean, Sarah handles a lot of all of the screen printing stuff.
Well, we need to say this too, because like you have been a huge friend of the show. You've helped us the big interviews, like Tommy Stinson. That was all you getting that for us. So we want to thank you for helping us do that.
Absolutely.
I mean, if I keep help, I don't have to start my own podcast. So.
Yeah, I know.
If you start your own podcast,
Yes.
we will drive you into the ground.
I don't have the time.
Yeah, you're too fucking busy to start a podcast. So, all right, so we're gonna
Let us have the podcast.
Yeah,
John.
come on, God.
Can't we have something? We can't be cool anymore. Can we at least have this?
So everybody, check out Self-Aware Records. They've got tons of releases by cool bands around Southeast bands, not just Charlotte bands.
Yeah, I mean, Southeast and kind of up and down the East Coast. I mean, we've signed a decent amount of Philly bands, but I mean, anywhere you can, but Bandcamp, I guess, selfawarerecords.bandcamp.com. We have everything we've released up there, so I think it's like the easiest place to see it. And also, I think Bandcamp's a better platform to support artists and labels directly as opposed to iTunes and Spotify, which you don't get anything. Music should be for everybody. So,
But if you can't get to that, it is all on iTunes.
it is on iTunes, on Apple Music, really any digital music provider for the most part. Most of it should be up there, of the label.
All right, and this is, thanks Josh for coming out, and this is Heaven
Thank you,
by
Josh.
Late Bloomer.
Sinners and all of us are gonna die. No sense in stressing about the time. Time is all we have. So do it right. If I make it to heaven, does it really matter? Crawl on the
new Johnny Marr song.
Do you want to do judgments before or after we play it?
That sounds bad.
Let's play it.
All right, let's play it. So this is a new track by Johnny Marr. I think correct me if I'm wrong, Henry, but he's got a new record coming out in the next month or so.
Yeah.
This is Tracers by Johnny Marr. All right, I'm going to let you go first on this one, Henry.
Piece of shit. Bad. Bad news. Sorry, Johnny Marr. Love you to death. Does less than the last record. It's bad news. And I know you agree with me. You're just making faces. What do you think? You want to like it. I know you want to. But it's not up to par. It's not up to snuff. Let me tell you what I know about this guy. He will always be guitar player par excellence in the genre that we know of. His ego has completely subsumed his judgment. And if you look at the video, it fucks it up even worse. I almost wish I had watched listen to the song without watching the video. The video is the worst, most rock star horseshit I've ever seen. It's worse than Morrissey's video. It's worse than the Morrissey one. Jackie's only happy. That bit, we thought together, we know that this is Morrissey doing like this self-aggrandizing horseshit. This is even worse than that. These long, lingering looks at his face. These bits where and it's like a pretend like he wants to give screen time to his bandmates, but it's also in front of him. I love the guy, but God damn it, dude. There's nobody to tell you no now, is what it seems like. There's nobody to tell you stop making it the Johnny Marr show. Now, Chris, am I off? Am I wrong?
So, I almost feel like it's so bad that we shouldn't even give time to it.
Right.
So a couple things here.
The song
Just
is
so people
mediocre at best.
If you ask me on my deathbed who my hero is, I'm not going to say Martin Luther King. I'm going to say Johnny Marr. Henry knows this.
Yeah.
I'm not even a guitar player, and Johnny Marr is my...
Right. He's the author of like transcendent moments.
He is my hero. He's my hero.
Yeah.
And to see my hero...
reduced to this.
Who came up with, in the mid-'80s, some of the stuff that transcends... I just think it... I mean, I tattooed it on my arm. And I'm not... Henry can attest to this. I don't have a ton of tattoos. Here's what bothers me. What bothers me is how can someone that produced that kind of art fuck up this way? First of all, this video, I couldn't even watch more than 5 seconds.
Oh, I watched it to the end.
It's so self-indulgent.
I felt the burn.
When he's looking at me on in this video, I had to turn it off. Second of all, Henry's exactly right. He needs someone to tell him no. He needs an editor But Johnny Marr was the editor for the Smiths. Johnny Marr was the guy, I thought, crafting songs going, Morrissey, ease back a little bit.
He's better looking outside of his own work. He did it very well with
But I thought he had the mind to be the guy that said,
no, he doesn't have perspective on his own work.
And here's the other thing. Nothing he's doing sounds like now.
No.
If the song was amazing, I could put up with the self-indulgent video. The song is just kind of early 90s. It's not even Modest Mouse.
It's the worst, man.
So,
and there are people, there's a whole, and here's the thing, like if you go on Facebook, fuck Facebook, but if you go on Facebook,
his video is a joke. It looks
you look at the
people are like laughing at it.
I would say 60% of the people that were responding, like, this ain't the one, dude. This is not, you're not doing right. I think he gets off on his own self-righteousness a bit. I think he's done really well in like being a vegetarian and being an ace guitar player.
But it makes me think like a Smiths reunion would be terrible because he's incapable now of writing.
They don't do videos.
Well, no, but think about
write
this.
a song,
but he can't.
But if you write a song like that one, fuck that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But he wrote the Smiths songs, and Morrissey did the vocals. There's no Morrissey did.
The lyrics are vapid as fuck.
But Morrissey did none of the music for the Smiths. Johnny Marr did all that.
Yeah.
Is Johnny Marr capable of writing a song now that you would want to hear with Morrissey singing on it? As much as I think Morrissey is a fucking asshole right now, if you put the two of them together in a room, I don't think Johnny Marr could write a song that I would want to hear Morrissey sing over.
Johnny Marr is not in a position where he's going to duke it out with anybody. And
no,
that's a problem.
But forget that.
That's a problem on the song.
Right, but if he wrote a song and brought it to Morrissey, which is what happened in the Smiths, right now, I would, this is horrible to say, I would trust Morrissey's judgment more than Johnny Marr.
Sure.
Yep. Well, man, I hate to end the episode busting on one of my heroes.
Downer, dude.
Yeah, because like Johnny Marr is one of my all-time heroes, but
just erase it.
I know.
We'll erase the whole thing. We're sorry, Johnny.
I think it's
pretend
actually
it didn't happen.
I think it's actually our whole potpourri section because we had a long conversation with Josh from Late Bloomer, which was awesome. But
yep.
Yeah, I hate to end an episode trashing my heroes, but I guess
that's all right. Well, maybe we'll talk him up next week.
Yeah, maybe he'll do something good. Go ahead and say the words,
All
Henry.
right, we ain't got no goddamn band, Chris.
Oh, we don't need no fancy words. I mean, we need to practice. We need to rehearse.
I'll tell you what we need. We need some paying gigs. We don't need this messing around, first one patio and then another, and that's ridiculous.
Amen.
We don't got no goddamn